Dr. Watson, and this week we're going to be talking about quarter notes and quarter rests, a new rhythm that we're adding to the rhythms. We already learned about whole and half notes and rest. So I guess I need a staff. Let's try a little magic to see if we can get our staff back. Here I go. And whoa, the magic of music. We got our staff back. Anyway, you can see that we're treble clef, bass clef, so for our high instruments like flute, clarinet, trumpet, alto sax, for our low instruments like trombone and baritone, we have a staff for you. We're in 4/4 time, which means there's 4 beats in a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 beats in every measure. But what we're going to explain today is about quarter notes. All right. So previously we talked about whole notes taking up the entire measure. So for instance, here's a whole note, or here's a whole note, and it takes up all 4 beats. Then we moved on to half notes. Half notes look like whole notes, but they have a stem that either goes up or hangs down. Could be either way. So that's a half note, and that would be 2 beats. So today what we're talking about is when you fill in that half note, it becomes what's called a quarter note. And a quarter note is just 1 beat. So it's only going to be 1 of 4 that would be required to fill up the whole measure. You know, sometimes students ask me, why is it called a quarter note? Well, just imagine a whole measure. Instead of it being a whole measure, was a whole dollar. And if you were to divide that measure or this dollar into 4 parts, right? I wouldn't rip it into 4 parts. I would use this coin, a quarter, right? And there's a reason it's called a quarter, and that's because you need 4 quarters to equal a whole, right? So if I owed you $1 and only gave you 3 of them, you wouldn't like that, right? You'd want 4 quarters. It takes 4 parts. You know, if I divide the dollar into 4 equal parts, it takes 4 quarters to make a whole dollar. And similarly, it takes 4 quarter notes to make a whole measure. So here's my dollar. Let's just pretend that this is a measure of music. So here's my staff, right? My staff. And that's 1 measure. And I can divide it into 4 quarter notes. Like here's a quarter note, here's a quarter note, here's a quarter note, here's a quarter note. And each quarter note is like the coin, a quarter, which means it's 1/4, right? I divide it into 4 pieces. 1/4 of the dollar, or 1/4 of the measure, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Of course, when we say 1/4, a lot of times we say 1/4. So if I want to put another on beat 2, that's 2 beats of music, right? And then another on beat 3, that's 3 beats of music, and then another quarter note on beat 4, that's our 4th beat, and now we've filled up the entire measure. Okay, of course, I'm going to put this down here too. Okay, so that's quarter notes, and that would be played ta, 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 ta. So with the instrument you're holding in your hand, you'd be blowing ta, 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 ta on beat 1, on beat 2, on beat 3, and on beat 4. So you can also have quarter rests. So this squiggly line here, that's a quarter rest. That's 1 beat of rest. So I would need 4 of them to take up the whole measure. Of course, a whole rest, let me draw that down here with my bass clef. A whole rest also is worth 4 beats. That would be the whole measure of rest as well. And more likely, you'd see that if you wanted to have somebody rest for 4 beats. But in your book, they give you the squiggly line 4 times just to show you that there is a rest that is only 1 beat long, and it would take up, you know, it would take 4 of them to make the whole measure. So, for instance, if I had maybe a note on beat 1 and then a rest on beat 2, what do I need to finish the measure? You know, 2 more beats. So let's put another note on beat 3 and then a rest on beat 4. So here's how our 4 beats would sound here. We'd play on beat 1, we'd rest on beat 2, we'd play on beat 3, we'd rest on beat 4. All of this would sound like this. Ta, 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 rest, 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 ta, rest, ta, rest. If you're counting rest, sometimes I like to have students whisper the rest. So you would whisper it like, you would say the counts like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at this bass clef where I have 4 quarter notes on beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. We have a whole measure of rest. Let's say we put a half note. That's 2 beats, right? A half note on beat 1 and 2. And then we put a quarter note on beat 3. We have 1 more beat that we would say we want it silent. That's where we would use that quarter rest. So now this would sound like this. We'd play for beat 1 and 2. We'd play on beat 3, and then we'd rest. So this would be like ta, ta, rest. And we could count it 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do one more thing here. Let's take this whole rest out of one of our measures, and I want to show you if you had just a quarter note on the first beat. So here we go, quarter note on the first beat. How many beats are left, right? We're quarter note on beat 1. Well, we have beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4 remain. So we have 3 beats. If we wanted that to be rest, we haven't learned a rest that lasts for 3 beats. So what we would do is we would put a 1 beat rest. There's our quarter rest, right? A 1 beat rest. And then we would put a half rest. It's an upside down whole rest that sits on the 3rd line. And that would be the remaining 2 beats. So here's a quarter rest for just 1 beat, and then here's a half rest for 2 beats, right? So those together would be the 3 beats that we needed of rest. All right, so let's put some of those quarter notes we just learned about into practice. We're going to play exercise number 17 in your Sound Innovations lesson book. It's called Quarterly Report. I'll be playing baritone, but it doesn't matter what instrument you play. Quarter notes are quarter notes. So here we go. You'll hear 4 clicks, and then I'll start, and you can follow along and listen to my 1-beat quarter notes, as well as there's a quarter rest in this song. There's a half rest for 2 beats, and there's a repeat sign, so I'll do it twice. Here we go. Repeat. And there you have it. Quarter notes are only 1 beat long, and that's the newest rhythm we're learning in 4th grade band. Good luck, practice hard.